Frederick Buechner tells a story about how when he was 10 years old, his father, an alcoholic, committed suicide. His dad looked in on Frederick and his brother, and then went outside into the garage and started the family car and died from the exhaust. Years later, Buechner had an inner dialogue with his father. During the course of that exchange, Frederick asked his father, "Could I have stopped you, Daddy, if I told you I loved you? If I told you how much I needed you?" One of the most celebrated preachers of yesteryear used to say that in every pew there is at least one broken heart. Today, it is possible that the heart has been injured by substance abuse in one of its various forms. Along with Buechner, we are left with questions as well as with intense pain. We want to know about substance abuse, how it happens, to whom it happens, what is it like, how can we help those who have become addicted. One place we can turn for information, and we may consider it an unlikely source, but the Bible offers some important insights. We can consider our Bible story today surrounding Noah and his sons, the first case of substance abuse. Up to this point in time, when the Bible speaks of Noah, it is to heap the highest praise upon him. Of all those folks who were alive at the time of the great flood, only Noah was found to be in favor with God. In Noah's service to God, Noah showed patience and perseverance, courage and conviction, devotion and dedication. There is not the slightest hint of a moral character flaw or weakness. And yet this great man, whom I often praise in sermons, and rightfully so, is tagged with the first biblical case of drunkenness. That is a powerful lesson in itself. There are no safe families. Anyone can become addicted regardless of his or her life circumstances. No family, no church is immune. And I hope as we acknowledge that fact, it will help us not to think meanly of the addicted or self-righteously of ourselves. Gerhard von Rad said that we should probably give Noah the benefit of the doubt rather than judge him harshly. Well, I don't judge him harshly, or anyone else for that matter. But the reason is that Genesis makes it clear that Noah was the first tiller of the soil. It could be then that he did not know what fermented grapes would be like. He may not have known what wine would do or be. So his condition could have been quite accidental. That too is a powerful lesson to learn. There is no safe experimentation with drugs. A TV commercial years ago used to show a young woman looking over her shoulder, looking back behind her, and diving into a swimming pool. And then the commercial showed that the pool was empty of water. People do not know what they are getting into when they start taking drugs. One high school student said that she just wanted to try drugs. She just wanted to know what it would be like. I never thought, she said, I'd be addicted after just one time. But she was. Addiction comes unexpectedly. I'm not calling for teetotalism, but I am sounding a warning note. In the words of St. Paul, so if you are standing, watch out that you do not fall. We may not be called to abstinence, but we are called to awareness. We know what substance abuse leads to. Ruined lives, lost love, broken promises, and tainted trust. My heart goes out to Noah's sons. They were shocked and did not know how to respond to their father's drunkenness. We often don't know how to react to the addiction of those we love. Noah's sons may show us what not to do. In verse 22, it suggests that what Ham did was gossip about his father's condition. Everyone knows that going about spreading word of another person's addiction does nothing to help that person. Shem and Japheth seem to have fared well by covering their father's nakedness, but they too may have been doing the wrong thing. They may have been doing what is called today enabling. An enabler fails to help the addicted to recover by covering up the addiction, by denying that it's happening, by ignoring it. We need intervention, which means confronting the person who is addicted in the spirit of love, and only in the spirit of love. Not moralizing accusations, but speak honestly about the addiction with love and truth. It hurts me to see you doing this to yourself. You haven't been there when I needed you. And it hurts me that you would choose this addiction over me. Those are some things we might say. I speak about this today because of my nephew. The other day, he and I were going to haul off the garbage from the farm. And as we were driving toward the dump, I noticed he was quiet. And he usually talks a lot. And then he said to me, you know, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of my incarceration in jail. I said, no, I had forgotten that. He spent a whole year in jail one time because in order to feed his addiction to drugs, he broke into a trailer to find what he could to sell, to buy drugs. And he was caught. And he went through trial and was convicted. And luckily, he only got a year. Because I used to go to some of those court hearings, and a judge would hand out 5 years like he was passing out candy. But anyway, he said to me, you remember you came to see me? And I said, yes, I remember that. And I said, do you remember what I said to you? And he said, yeah, I do. You said the only way I could get off drugs was to forgive my father completely. Or leave home. Well, after he got out of jail, my nephew failed to do that. And so he spent 17 more years. As an addict. Finally, he was forced to leave home. Things got so bad. And he was out on his own suddenly, nowhere to go. He walked the streets of Owensboro. And it scared him. And finally, he got the help that he needed. And now he's been off drugs for over 3 years. And he's living at the farm with us. And we are watching very closely to make sure that he doesn't have to face something that might, trigger that addiction again. He doesn't go around any of the people that he used to. That's very, very important. Even when he goes to see his little girl, he won't do it if his ex-wife is there because she was part of the drug problem. And so now he seems to be fat and healthy and happy. And we want to keep him that way. Another thing that I wanted to share with you was I mentioned enablers. Well, I think I was guilty of that once. My brother-in-law, who died some years ago now, he had a mental disease. The family didn't know it. I don't know how they kept that from us, but they were able to. He was a schizophrenic. And if you know anything about that, it's a horrible disease. Imagine never knowing the truth about anything, about what someone says to you, about what you see, what you hear. It's just horrible. Well, he did take drugs, powerful drugs, and that is some of the way that it remained hidden for so many years. He taught school and retired. And to my knowledge, no one ever knew anything about his condition. The problem was he drank pretty heavily. And I thought it was just because he liked to drink. His father was an alcoholic, but I didn't consider him to be an alcoholic. And it turns out, really, he drank because he thought that helped the drugs to control his mental disease. And the way I enabled him was being superintendent of the waterworks. I had a lot of salesmen come by and see me, and so often they would give me a fifth of something. Whiskey, vodka, anything. I've always been a beer man myself. And I didn't like the hard stuff, so I gave it to him. And I didn't know at the time what was wrong with him or anything like that, but his doctor knew that he was drinking. And the doctor assured him that it would kill him eventually. And it did. He was in the Marines when he was young, and he fell in love with sailing, and he had a sailboat, and he used to go down there and stay on that thing for long periods of time. I've been down there with him. And one day, while he was down there, he'd been down at the lake for about a week, and they found a body in the water, and it was his. He didn't drown. It turned out that he had a heart attack, so he was basically dead when he hit the water. But I'm satisfied that his drinking, along with those powerful pills that he took, led to his demise. And, I hope that I didn't lend a great deal to that by giving him that liquor. So we have to be careful that we don't enable other people to hurt themselves. Have to be aware. And may God bless our families and our society until all bondage